Welcome everybody to Fake Whale. Today we have Lucas Aguirre. I didn't try to roll the R's. We were just talking about rolling R's, but I mispronounced his name for everybody listening. But we're super stoked to have you. Thank you so much for accommodating this and spending some time with me today.
Hey, thank you,
Lucas
Jesse,
is
and thank
known
you.
for, yeah, absolutely. Lucas is known for your work in photogrammetry. I'm just going to put that out there right away, at least to me. But I would like to know, to start this off, what brought you to photogrammetry? Like, I know that you've been working in photogrammetry before NFTs, before, that whole space even, but that's a still newer technology. And so I'm kind of wondering, to begin with here, what led you to photogrammetry? And if you'd like, you can start as early as childhood, because I know that you have a long story, a storied past, you could say. So feel free to
Mhm.
introduce yourself if you'd like, and bring us up to the point of your creative journey.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse and FakeWhale, for this invitation. It's so cool. I love the suspense music before this starts. It's like, uh, and yeah. I'm pretty much a drawing and painter artist. I was one of those childs that was everywhere he went. He went with a long pile of papers. My parents said, "Okay, he needs to draw." So everywhere we go to with a lot of papers and things to draw. Both my parents were architects, so I had a lot of uh, things to draw with. Um, but I never used the paint before I entered the visual arts university here in Cordoba, Argentina. And then there I discovered painting, and it was like all the wet materials and all the randomness, because painting and drawing teached by architects, it's like more like an exact approach to drawing in a way, mimetic and practical. But the first day I entered the visual arts university, I had this drawing class where the teacher showed us that we can paint with latex paint, with coffee, with tea, with salt, and it was like really mind opening for me. And so I tried a lot of that stuff. I merged my previous work with these new techniques. And some years later, I discovered digital drawing with the tablet, with a Wacom tablet. It was 2004, yes, something like that. And it for me it was like, oh, now I can do whatever I want. But in 2017, I got access to a grant, to an art and technology grant, uh, that allowed me to buy for the first time in my life a decent PC, because I I used it like, in until 2014, for example, I was using the old CRT monitors, these big bulky monitors, for example, now, and my PC was the basic to run Photoshop, and but not using 3D. But after I got this PC and a VR headset, I spent like 2 years uh, wondering what should I do with VR. And I was feeling bad, because I said, oh man, I have this tool. This is amazing. This is all that I dreamed in my life, like drawing a line in the space and stuff, was a dream since I was a child, but I didn't fully got to what to do with the VR, because I found myself that, like I found myself in the like I found it when I was in the university, that I'm not a sculptor. I really don't like. I like to work with clay sometimes, and in fact I did some I don't know, photos from clay models, and then I overpaint on them or use it as a reference. Same with the 3D models using ZBrush. But after those years of experimenting different ways with VR, in the beginnings of 2019, I got access. Well, I knew about photogrammetry, and it was like, oh, this is it. And I did like some photogrammetries with a shitty cell phone I had, and then with a camera. And when I did with the camera, and I scanned my partner and a friend of her, and I never minted or did anything with that particular piece, but it's a very significant for me, because I saw them with some parts of them were very perfect, and some parts of them were fucking glitched, and I loved that, because I saw, oh, this is it, because it's the same I thought years before with a 3D printer. I had this 3D printer. And for me, 3D printing was really amazing, because it was like industrial and artisanal. You know, I don't know if the right word, but it was like, looked like an artisan craft and an industrial craft in the same object. Sometimes when the object had errors and stuff, but for me, it had the limitation of the matter, the physical matter. So when I got access to photogrammetry with a hacked software that I found in the internet before crypto art and stuff, it was like, oh, this is it. And after I learned that I could merge this or import these models of photogrammetry into VR. No, so there I was like free to work with the mundane objects, with the people, with the objects, with the spaces that surround my life, and merge them into this VR space that is pure potential, like you said in the FakeWhale text. After that, when in 2020 I get to crypto art, I bought a 3D scanner that I am using with the iPad, and now it's my main tool, more than photogrammetry, because 3D scan allows me to work more freely, faster, with less resolution than photogrammetry. But I like that, because sometimes with photogrammetry, all the scans were so perfect that I felt like, oh, no, I could not paint, or I could not destroy this because it's too beautiful. But with 3D scan, what gives me most of the times is like a loose, it has no, I don't know, hair or
Sure.
information. So for me, it feels like the first layer of a painting, no? And it's more free for me to work over it. And I have not this, I don't know, this feeling of I'm ruining it, you know?
I do. I
So
totally get that.
yeah,
I do photogrammetry as we were speaking, as you said, off not publicly. We were speaking on Instagram. I was actually looking it up earlier, but
yeah, yeah,
we're
yeah,
I like when the photogrammetry fucks up too. Like that's my favorite part. Like I think that's
yeah,
going to be what the artists are always kind of drawn to with these technologies. But I want to go back to what you said about you said earlier in it about the drawing in VR and how you've always wanted to do that, like draw a line in 3D space. And like me too, because I've always like thought that that would be so, awesome. But I had the exact same reaction of like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't even know like what am I doing? What, what was that feeling for you? Or like, how did you, did it, I'm trying to understand even for myself that it's like, you come across these technologies sometimes, but they're not intuitive enough, maybe, or they're not they're not like artistic enough yet or something, the way that an artist wants to work freely or something like that. But to
Yeah,
use it, it's actually kind of really overbearing or something, and it kind of takes that away from it, and then you're kind of stuck with like, well, like, sure, I'm drawing in 3D space, but it doesn't feel like art or something like that. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah. Basically, for me, it was like, oh, I don't enjoy sculpting from scratch something,
Mm.
like, okay, yes, I love to draw lines and stuff, but uh, I didn't. I said, okay, I have the best tool in the world now to sculpt, and I'm so fucking lazy that I am not sculpting anything, or I start something and then oh, no, fuck it, and I said, and I was feeling bad. But when I get to work over a 3D scan, that I had these experiences of working with 3D scans before actually getting a 3D scan, um, and it was so fun, man. It was so fun because I love to destroy. Sometimes I talk to some friends that I am a this sculptor, not a sculptor,
Hmm.
no, because I like more to destroy, and I see you share with me the same
Yeah,
thing, no?
big time.
Of
You're touching on something that I was gonna then go into, because now we're talking about something different completely, which I like love this topic of like, I'm the same way. Sometimes it's so hard for me. Like, I love to draw, I love to make marks and stuff like that, but what I really like to do is transform things. I really like to like make like
yeah,
take something else and make it completely different, or yeah, just like I was talking with Kevin Abash actually in London about this, about how I used to have a practice where I would take other people's shit or other people's imagery and add just a page from a magazine or whatever, and try to make it completely different while doing as little as possible to it. Just that idea of like, how can I completely manipulate this with doing as little as possible? That is kind of an extreme version of what we're talking about. What is that, do you think, then? Like, I would really love to hear what you feel that impulse is of, because it's not like, so for me, I think when people hear that, they think, oh, you can't do it then. You're not able to just create from nothing, or you're not creative enough, or maybe you can't take a photo yourself, or you can't paint something. You only like to ruin
yeah,
other people's or whatever. But for me, I mean, maybe that's the case for some people, but I don't, that's not the case for me. I know that
yeah,
because I do both, and I think you do both as well. But yet,
yeah,
the impulse, the real enjoyment is still taking something else or working with something that exists already.
yeah, yeah. For me, it was like a path that I was in that path from, I don't know, 6 years uh, before actually getting this. Yeah, from 2014, sometime, yes, like 5 years. I get to a point in my art practice that where I felt dry. I felt all that I was doing with painting and drawing was sterile. It was a cliche. All for me was a cliche. All that I draw, all that I paint was a cliche. I I was ending. Yeah. I was ending. I get you. Yeah. In fact, I think I saw some of your fake well talks where you were talking about something like that. Yes,
Hmm.
I remember now. And I was like in the dark night of the soul, like you said in that talk. Um, Creatively speaking, because yes, I felt like something was off. I was ending a series, 3 or 4 years, a series that was called the 10,000 Things. That when I um, practically mix all the styles I get to learn from the years. So very realistic. So copy from the reality, copy from the imagination, drawing with the eyes closed, anything, any all the styles I was working, and I was creating these colorful masses of different drawings and painting and collage and stuff. But after 3 or 4 years doing that, I felt that like, oh, this goes nowhere. And I started like connecting with more with the conceptual parts of myself and reconnecting with some aspects of creation that I went through in university. After university, I did like 10 years of freelance work, and it was my mind was set to illustration and to create work for someone else. No, so after that series, I wanted to reconnect with the deeper parts of myself, and I started like a series of art residencies and clinics, and for I don't know 4 years more or less. And in one of those residencies, clinics that I did with a photographer called Ananke Asef, an incredible artist from Argentina. She's a photographer, and we did like these bi-weekly meetings, online meetings, because she lives in Buenos Aires and I live in Córdoba. It's a province of Argentina. Where we share, I share her my processes, and we did a blog with like a diary of this process. And it was, man, it was so hard for me because, for example, the first time she said to me was, okay, stop talking about what you were doing and do new work, but not with painting or drawing. You are forbidden to do that. And I said, wow, man, what should I do? And I started like doing video. I started to doing things with clay. I started with a lot of experimentation, but I had like a year and a half of pure chaos. I wasn't able to draw or paint. Only thing when I got a pencil, the only thing I was able to draw or paint was like these blobs, these stains of gray and black. It was no. For me, it was like, oh, what I am, what is my identity now? And after some times, I got this 3D printer. I started to work with 3D printing. I did these installations for a show that we had with a friend, with 3D printings coming out of the wall, you know. So, and I collaged those 3D printings with paper and painted over those. So I was basically trying to get the 3D out of my 2D creations, you know. And after a time, I was starting to do these drawings or paintings from 3D models done in ZBrush. And actually, that was the first time in 1 year and a half that this woman said to me, "Oh, this is interesting. This is something." Because all the time was, I don't get it, and I was like, it was very difficult for me, you know, because artists we need a constant approval
Oh
from
yeah,
others, no?
we're
So
sensitive.
especially with authority figures, you know, like what her was for me a very respected she is a very respected artist. So for me, I said to her, oh, I did this with 3D printing, and you know the lighting, and it reminds me of Heroes and the Myths and Joseph Campbell. And I said, no, I don't feel it. I feel it like a child play, you know, you're like a child playing with dolls and stuff. And I said, oh, fuck it, she's right, but what to do? And I started. So, yeah. It was harsh, very harsh for me, and I'm really happy about her being so harsh on me because it was like I did before that. I did some art clinics with some people, group art clinics, and I felt like, you know, I did karate when I am actually a black belt in karate when I was a child, you know.
Sick.
So for me, discipline is very important. You know, I learned the importance of discipline, and sometimes in these group art clinics, I was feeling that I was not getting enough discipline, in the conceptual aspect, because
Mm-hmm.
in the traditional aspect of painting and drawing and mimetic and stuff that you were saying before, like I want to do that, I need to do that, and I need to feel that I have the possibility to the skills to do that. But now in the conceptual space, it was a whole different set of rules, It was like about creating something that feels authentic and feels like real me, So I started to do this drawing and paintings from 3D models, from ZBrush. Actually, she gave me the first thing to say, hey, why don't you do a paint from this 3D model that you are doing? And I was, why? And she said, maybe in the translation from one language to another, will have a thing. And that was the first time in 1 year and a half that she actually suggested me to do something. And it was like, okay, there is something here. So I started this huge painting, not a small drawing from this 3D model, but okay, I will buy a giant canvas and started this. And I was like painting for 6 months this work that is actually minted on Tesos. It's my only work on Tesos. That is like a round figure, a black figure, done with a lot of arms
Oh
with
yeah, yes.
spears. Yeah, and I spent like 6 months working on that, and after that, yeah, it is in the magazine. Actually, we share space. I was ecstatic about sharing space with
Me
you,
too.
and yeah, thank you. So yeah, for me it was like a painstaking process of copying the 3D models and translating those into oil. But I felt that something was missing, because I felt like history is rolling like fast, really fast, and I'm like 6 months painting one piece. I didn't feel like this was representing my speed of thought and the speed of the world above all, So
So
I,
I'm sorry to interrupt,
yeah,
but just to be clear, at this point you're literally just painting your
yeah,
3D like work. It's just a paint. It's not like painting over the 3D work or anything like that. It's just painting on
no,
canvas or whatever.
yeah, I was painting over the 3D work, but painting over the printed 3D work. Yeah, that's the one. That's
For
the one.
everybody, yeah, for everybody who's watching, they can see this. Me and Lucas here share a spread, sorry, in At Large magazine. That's courtesy of Vertical Crypto Art. We were in the show together last
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
February. Um,
It was
so
like
yeah,
pure love for me. Yes.
yeah, me too. It's a great spread, like just perfect. So yeah,
Yeah,
did you get a
yeah,
copy?
yeah, yeah. Yes, yes, yes. I
Yeah, it's
love it.
nice, huh?
I love it.
Killer
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
magazine.
Really,
Anyway,
really,
sorry to
really.
interrupt. So you were
Yeah, yeah.
painting these digital, you were basically using, it sounds like the 3D models you were creating as like sketches for paintings or something.
For sketches, for painting, and also for collaging over with 3D models printed. Like creating these physical figures. But all was like limited with the actual matter, the physical paint or uh, the models. And above all, I still felt like with painting on canvas, I felt like all the masters of the past are watching above my shoulder and saying, "Oh man, you suck with oils. You suck with painting. You are doing this. This is terrible." Because essentially you are working with the same tools as Caravaggio, like oil or acrylic in the most modern cases over paper or canvas. So I always felt constrained. I always felt I like uh, understood about that in previous art critics that it was for me like a very patriarchal backpack that I have as a painter. So I'm looking for freedom to create. When I was as a child, I was thinking, oh, I want to paint this drawing in the space. Uh, for me, it was complete freedom, because I wasn't constrained to the paper, and especially after in the later years when I learned 3D drawing, the 3D three-dimensional approach to drawing, I was beginning to think like a 3D render, like this creation of the wireframe for this model, and then over you shade it,
Hmm.
and over the colors and the atmosphere and how the lights. So it was natural for me to start to work with 3D. But 3D in the computer felt like office work for me. Yeah, compared to paint on a big scale canvas. Painting with, I don't know if you ever painted with enamel paint, the
Enamel,
house
yeah.
paint, enamel, enamel, yes. Uh, for me, it's like the drumming of painting, like the watercolor is so subtle, smooth, and enamel is like wow, and you
Sure,
and you
sure.
get so Jackson Pollock, you get in Jackson Pollock mood, and it was wow, so fun, so chaotic in a way, and the same with huge paintings. You paint with the body.
Hmm.
I sense you work with your whole body. When
Hmm.
we're doing this whole collage. So doing 3D with the mouse or even the tablet and ZBrush, for me, I felt like it was a continuation of my work as a freelance artist, and I felt a little more or less to be dry. You know, didn't get the same feeling. So when I finally started to sculpt with VR, I was crying, man. I was crying of emotion. I said, "Oh, this is the dream come fucking true." It
Yeah.
was, yeah. But yes, like I said, I wasn't a sculptor. So when I was able to actually import some aspects of my world into that
Hmm.
and work over that, it was a whole different game.
Awesome. I mean, that's perfect. That leads us right into where I wanted to go. So, um, I love this idea, first of all, of I when I do photogrammetry or whatever, I love to take out the shading and see that, that wireframe that you're talking about.
Yep.
And then hearing that your parents were or architects, makes a lot of sense. Kind of this, like, you're seeing the architecture of a shape and stuff like that. So I definitely see these connections. I'm really interested in
Mm.
that too. I come from a family of that contains architects as well. I think there's something there to be said about that. But uh, also what you said about skill of like having gone to school and learning how to be a perfect renderer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then coming out of that, realizing that nobody cares after, like, like nobody gives a
Yeah.
shit if you're like can render like something perfectly because you enter a field where like everybody can. It's like, who cares? Like, what
Yeah.
what what do you have to say though? Like, if we
Yeah.
don't care if it looks good, and that can
Yeah.
be, I think that can be destabilizing for people a lot of times coming out of art college or coming out of thinking that they're like a really great artist because they can make a perfect representation of something, when
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with art, in my opinion. That's rendering. That
Yeah.
and that will become obsolete more and more as time goes on, and there's easier ways to do it. It will obviously be a craft still, but it's a craft. That's what it is. Not art and craft
Yes.
are separate. I think, at least to a degree. So I just kind of love everything you're saying in this path, because we sound somewhat similar. I'm not sure if we're picking up the dump truck outside right now, but sorry if we are. Um,
No problem.
Also saying what you're with the work with the whole body. I wrote that down because I definitely feel that way as well. I love seeing gesture, the hand of the artist in the work, like the body of the artist in the work, like the
Yeah.
motion that in like the record of his motion as an art, or her motion or their motion. So all these things were very in line. But what we haven't really gotten into yet, a half an hour in already, and I realized some people who are listening might not know what photogrammetry even is. So photogrammetry,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Photogrammetry is
yes.
like, I figure you're probably better off explaining what it is, but to me it's something that it became possible doing on an iPhone app, and I was like, oh shit, cool. And I just started fucking with it. So I think my understanding of it might be a little bit more rudimentary than yours. Did you see like the evolution of it come out? Also, I'm gonna say this too, not to drag on the question, but like we talked about this a little bit on Instagram, and I was telling you that I see photogrammetry as just an evolution of the photo. It's just like it's 100 photos together, or 200 photos, or however many photos it takes. That's what it uses to make it. So there's
Yeah.
actually no three-dimensional data that you're giving it. You're actually giving it a bunch of 2D images, and it's forming a 3D image out of that, which I think is different than creating a 3D image like in ZBrush or something like that, which makes it to me more an extension of photography than of 3D graphics or
Yes,
something,
yes, yes,
CGI or
yes, yes.
something.
It
And then
actually is.
you went on
Yes.
to say a bunch of beautiful things about like, you know, beautiful moments, love ones are cherished in a metaphor or meta photo format. 3 years of doing it, seeing nieces growing, etc., which I found extremely poetic and beautiful way of thinking about this technology in a more visceral way, I guess. So to go back to what the question kind of was, maybe you could give the listeners and viewers what is photogrammetry, I guess, and
Yes.
then whether or not you agree with me on I see it as more of an extension of photography than of like CGI.
Yes, yes, yes. Sorry, viewers, for this nerd talk. When we take for granted that everyone knows what
Yeah,
is
and that's my
photogrammetry.
bad,
Yeah,
bro. That's my
yeah.
bad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes I go to Twitter Spaces or something and I say, "Fucking nerds, speak to me, explain to me what are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
They just go on and on about like this thing. You're like,
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah,
even
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
this?
So what the fuck, photo what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, actually, it is. I get to know photogrammetry thanks to Marcela Bosch, that is a collaborator of me in some projects, art projects. She's a photographer, and she had this friend that was an architect, and he said to her, "Hey, we use this thing. Your pal works with 3D. Hey, why won't you show him this thing?" Uh, Sometimes architect scans a place before starting a construction, and searching about the speaking about photogrammetry with a guy that does agree. I don't know how to say agrimensor. It's the like measuring a field, for example.
Oh,
You
oh,
know,
like a surveyor.
uh, yes, like a surveyor.
Mhm.
Uh, he said to me that in the 70s they did this thing like they call photogrammetry, and it was like with a lot of photos of a city taken from different angles. They created these maquettes like this with cardboard, with
Oh,
photos printed over it. They created like this bifocal views of the
okay.
city for
Wow.
them to understand the space, you know. So you are right, that is like the word is like measuring photos, the relation of a photo
Yeah,
to another. So you
yeah.
basically creating a model of the world of the physical space from 2D photos. Now it's using GPS information and also the pixel information. Basically, the photogrammetry software that they understand this pixel is the same as this pixel in this
Mm.
image, in these two images. No, so this part of the image is the same as this part of the image when you rotate the camera around the object, the
Mm.
person, or the space.
Okay. Okay.
So basically,
So
yes, yeah,
so for everybody listening, like, well, and for me too, I use Metascan a lot. We'll use this as an example. I don't know if you've ever used that, but there's the two options for how to do a scan with that. It's like photo, which is what I said at the beginning, take 100, 200, however many photos and putting it together. But the second, what you're talking about is LiDAR, right? Where it like measures dots and or places points and then,
No. LiDAR is with the 3D scanning, but what I was saying with pixels
yeah.
is photogrammetry, is pure photogrammetry.
Oh, okay.
Like I did again, I didn't explain it in a very simple way. It's
Layman's term, yeah.
taking photos of a person, object, or a place, different photos with any with a cell phone or a camera, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter. Of course, with better image, you will get better results. But with all these photos, a group of photos, you put them on photogrammetry software, and it creates a 3D model with
Right on.
the shape information and also with the color information, with the textures and stuff. So yeah, basically it's a evolution, I don't know, of photos in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
I would say so.
we
So,
we we talk about being like meta photos in a way, and we talk about on Instagram about, for me, like I am doing photogrammetry since 2019, no? So for example, some of my nieces, I scanned them, and they are all grown up now, and I can see them with from different angles, and
mhm,
it's very beautiful for me. It's like a capture moment in all the its dimensionality in a way.
mhm,
So it's very beautiful. I scanned my grandmother that now passed away, and for me it's so beautiful to see it
mhm.
because it shows a lot of aspects that you cannot see with a photo alone in a way.
That's really beautiful.
It makes you remember some other aspects of that persons and from that particular moment.
Yeah.
I One thing I really love about 3D scanning and photogrammetry, it's like sometimes when you scan a person, you also scan the surroundings, and sometimes the surroundings are very significant in a way. Like this match put on this table, this book that the person was reading, and I am more and more paying attention to the context
Mhm.
uh, also, but not just the figure in a way.
That's really
And
interesting. And that's really
yeah,
beautiful too. Like, what you're saying about the space really made me think about how you can explore a moment for a lot longer. Like if you scan that whole space and you being able to revisit it and look at those things around the room, things that you probably, you can re-explore the space and see what was on the table that you might not have noticed before, what's on a
yeah,
shelf or some shit like that. It's really interesting. That idea of the meta photo too. I mean, you're literally packing more information into something, so it's like there's
yes,
literally more there to go exactly
yes.
with what you're saying.
Yes,
Um,
and
so
sorry to and it uh, solves the thing of mimetic, the thing of realism. It gives you realism. It gives you a perfect chiaroscuro,
mhm,
a perfect a lot of things. So I am more relaxed just to play, over it.
sure. So you're taking these now. Well, okay, sorry. Let me back up a little bit. I feel like
Yeah,
this
yeah. I
technology
interrupt you.
has no, that this technology has just like kind of went really fast more recently. In the recent years, it's becoming way more accessible. It's on the phones. It's pretty, like technology has advanced quickly. And so you're advancing with it and using it like, so you're taking scans. Basically, what I'm trying to get to here is like you're almost not exact process. You don't need to give anything away, but you talk about using an iPad and things like that. So you're scanning things
Yeah.
with an iPad, you're bringing them into VR and into a 3D space. Let's talk about that. Like, are you now taking the scans and with in VR, you're loading them into some program, right? Can you bring
Yeah.
multiple scans into one program, right? You're bringing multiples.
Yes.
And then are you like with your controllers in 3D space, picking them up and moving them around, things like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so wow. I mean, that's like that's where I want to go. I haven't gotten there yet myself, but that
Yeah.
must just be insane. That must be like what a crazy feeling. Or like, so what and I guess I want to get into a little bit of particulars. You're using an iPad and you're doing 3D scans. That's not photogrammetry, or
No, 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 no. I started with photogrammetry, and then when I actually entered in the middle of the pandemic with crypto art, and I sold one or two pieces, I said to myself, okay, what to do next? And I bought an iPad after a lot of research about the 3D scanning technologies. I found that the only way that I was able to scan without a wire, it was with the 3D scan attached to the iPad, a structure sensor 3D scan. So with that, I can go around. It's very lightweight, very small, so I can go with my iPad and the 3D scan and go anywhere. For example, with a 3D scan, a handheld 3D scan, you have this wire connected to a laptop. I don't have a laptop, only have a desktop PC. So I say, okay, let's do this. And it was the best choice for me because I work like 4 times faster than with photogrammetry. For example, with photogrammetry, you have the model needs to be extremely still. If I am standing, just the pulse or the breathing can make the model
mm,
non-existent or very glitched in a way. So all the models, my first models, for example, this is this woman with a spear in the hand,
mm-hmm,
this a naked woman, and the pose is very dynamic in a way. But
mm-hmm.
she was actually lying on a couch. I deleted the couch, but with 3D scan, I even can capture movement. You know, the person can be still and moving and moving very slow as I am scanning, and it will get 3D three arms, for example. You know, like this
Mm,
repetition of movement. And I really like it because I love futurism, I love bacon and expression, and so with these models, when I scan them with 3D scan, they have a lot of, they can have a lot of glitches or be so perfect. I import them into, previously it was Oculus Medium, now it's Adobe Medium, that is basically a software for sculpting and painting. And there I work, I feel now like I am actually playing with dolls, with action figures, like when I was a child.
mm-hmm,
And this woman said to me, hey,
mm-hmm.
well, now I am playing with
Yep. Now you
action
literally
figures,
are.
and I fucking love it. I fucking love it because it's so the movement. And the thing I really like is, for example, you have this figure scanner, and you use the move tool that is basically like I have this tool that I grab my face and like stretch it. If I stretch it too hard or too fast, it breaks apart and it has these voxels, like
Mm-hmm.
pixels, but with 3D. These voxels like exploding. You have like a
Is that
gesture.
like is that like a smudge tool in Photoshop almost, but like a 3D
Exactly.
version? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's a smooth tool,
This sounds
and
like
you
a
move it.
dream. I can't wait to jump in there. I actually have my VR helmet right here. Like I'm ready
Oh
to like
man,
try this
man.
shit out, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can send you, or you can search in Sketchfab, for example, some 3D scanned persons that you can download, and
mm,
you can work straight away. And it was amazing for me because I pretty much started VR at the same time as it was commercially available. So uh, at least here in Latam. So I started, like, for example, entering these spaces, these Facebook groups of Medium, the software, and I was asking some of the developers, hey, can you import a 3D scanner with color texture? And some of them said to me, well, we don't know. And after a time, I got to a video of this guy that actually was doing, and it was like learning how to do it. So it was crazy times, but because in that groups, sometimes the people was showing to the developers, hey, I can do that, and the developers were saying, hey, you did that with our software, fucking amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it was a time of feeling like I felt the same with crypto art, like years later, but I felt like, whoa, we are in the middle of this evolution
Yeah,
now.
what year was
So
that this was like
2017. 2017
okay.
was my first time. And 2019 was the first time that I actually did photogrammetry. It was like first 3 of January of 2019, I discovered photogrammetry. So for me, I felt like, oh, this is going to be the year of photogrammetry, you know. But yeah, but basically this software, this medium is the way that I always dream of approaching into 3D because it's so intuitive. It's so intuitive. You move,
So
you
important.
select, you draw, you paint, you stretch, you cut. It's like working with clay. Um, so
And that's how it needs to be. Like I mean, you said the word intuitive. I use that all the
yes,
time. But things, what
yes,
for
yes,
at least how I see it, the things need to be
yeah.
intuitive for them to be utilized artistically, or because you need freedom in order to exercise complete creativity. And when you're bogged down by like a program or the rules of a program or the limitations or whatever, and it's not intuitive, and you have to like go through all these steps or processes or
Yes.
understand very esoteric coding or some shit, and it just takes away from the artistic impulse. Because I think that that's the word, impulse.
Yes.
Art is an impulse, creativity is an impulse, whereas like, you know,
Yeah.
when you're getting into the delicacies of something, you've lost the impulse. And
Yeah.
so
Yes.
that's really, you're hitting on so many important factors. So that
Yeah.
brings us
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
up to your present work, and I would love to talk about your work specifically, instead of you having to give us a fucking lesson on how to do what is photogrammetry and how to do it. I would love to hear, for the rest of our time, more of your personal conceptual interests, where your concepts come from and what those concepts are. I know you have brought up Argentina multiple times, and I know that plays a role in some of your conceptual works. Can you speak a little bit about maybe the background and where you're coming from?
Yeah. Yeah. Argentina is a beautiful country. I really love it. Now working in crypto art, some artists and people that I talk with, they told me, "Hey, you didn't uh, thought of moving to some other place where art making will be more accessible, or you will have access to these exhibitions, biennales, or whatever." And I said that I would like to travel a lot, but I don't feel like living in other place but Argentina, because here being an artist is almost utopic. Like I think 1%. Some people say 3%, but I think it's 1% of the artists actually can live here. Argentina is a country. I I was born in the 79 of the previous century, right after. Well, it was in the middle of a military coup here. We are in democracy since the 83. So I was lucky enough to not live those moments, but I still remember, for example, the Falkland, the Malvinas War as a child, and it was like the final chapter of violence of several years or decades of violence in my country. So I'm 43 now. It was 40 years ago that we are in democracy, but all these feelings of violence are in the unconscious of our country. And at the same time, we are one of the few countries in the world where we actually send those dictators to trials, and we have the movements like Mothers of Plaza de Mayo, that are mothers and grandmothers that in the middle of this dictatorship, they started to looking for this for her children's, and they were heroes. And that kind of social movements, and the thing that we were able to have a little of justice on that place, on this place, is we are like a country that where the people gets united in front of what is unfair. You know, the people go to the streets and we fucking like, okay, this is not fair, this is not fair. Because the thing with this military coup is not only that they killed a lot of people, they have disappeared a lot of people, but also there is this economic plan that is actually very neoliberal in a way, backed up with by the US, by some other potencies that are making, you know, like you belong to the global south as an Argentinian, as a Latin, and you have to stay that way. So we have a lot of, for example, a fucking neoliberal president that we have 3 years ago. We are in a huge debt right now with the FME, it's the IMF, I say, International Monetary Fund. So we are not Cuba, we are not Venezuela, we are not in the same in those kind of situations, politically speaking, but we are constantly in economic default or crisis and stuff. So being an artist here is fucking difficult, fucking difficult. So I lived all my life before crypto art, feeling that okay, I will be a freelance illustrator, freelance artist, because I'm not even from Buenos Aires, the capital of our city. I'm from Cordoba. Here, nationally, the artists from Cordoba, we don't have much more conversation in the video, because if you want to pursue an art career, you go to Buenos Aires, or you go to US, or you go to Europe. So, but what I was trying to say is that we are constantly evolving and trying to adapt just to survive. And that, as an artist, is very powerful. We have a very strong art community here. For example, this friend of mine, she traveled to Europe, and she's a, how do you say grabador? He's like this technique. It doesn't matter. She went to an art school in Finland, I said, and she said to me, hey, they have 10 times more machines to make art, these presses, for example, and less people, and no one is using them because they are like, to be honest, they are like bored. For me, the artists there feel like bored because they have their life was solved in a way. And here we need to constantly evolve and constantly struggling in front of those aspects of life, economic, political. So we need to get together. We need to learn from each other. And we have a lot of movements here in art. So sometimes the institutions are very weak or very corrupt. And from time to time, the governments also are. So we learn a lot from, from surviving. And for me, working with 3D scans and working with VR was a way to incorporate those elements from my surroundings, my common life, into this space where everything is possible. And I feel the same with crypto art, because I felt I finally entered this space where, you know, I wasn't comfortable. I worked with galleries, but I wasn't comfortable with openings or with talking with collectors. But I was sharing my works in online since Photolog times in 2004, 2005, and I really felt close to your words that I read somewhere that you said, I specifically creating for an online viewer because I felt like this is the most democratic approach to show work, but because even I, here living here, the poverty is very close to me. I go to the street and I see all these people begging, and and I know that the museum is not a safe place for them. If you live in the streets, you cannot enter into a museum. And if you enter to a place, you may think that, oh, maybe the police will get me. They will think that, and actually, we talk with some people in living in the streets about that, and they say, yes, I don't feel allowed to enter this cultural center because we were inviting them to enter this thing we were doing in a space.
Awesome.
And they say to me, no, I don't, because I am afraid of the guards, because it's a circle of. So yes, for me, creating here it's a symbol. It's I love to these ragged figures, these glitched figures. For me, they are like a representation in a way of broken people, but entering a space of pure potential. Pure. So it's it moves me.
I'm very interested in that, what you were talking about, the homeless people or people who live on the street and trying to get them to go into a gallery and them being uncomfortable with it. I mean, that's very,
Yeah.
can't even think of the word I'm trying to right now, but that's so powerful in a way. I mean, here I live in Long Beach right now. I lived in Los Angeles, but where I lived in Los Angeles was like very close to the whole, every time I left the door. I lived in like a very urban industrial area, and my neighbors was like a homeless community, basically outside of the warehouse. And here in Long Beach too, every time I leave, you encounter that kind of thing. And so
Yes.
I totally understand what you're saying. It's like it's something very apparent in your life. You can't not see it. But most people ignore it or whatever. So to hear like you were trying to get them to come into a gallery, I think is super interesting, and there's something super interesting that they didn't want to. But that's not really a surprise, right? It's always been very exclusive or very not for everybody by design, even though a museum's free most of the time, or like a free museum, free to who? It's still like exclusive to, I guess, kind of a certain group.
Sí. Yes, sí, digo.
What
free but not safe is the word.
Yeah, free but not safe. That's interesting. I mean, also, I want to make sure I understood what you said about the history lesson that you gave about Argentina, that some of the people that were responsible were brought to justice. Is that right? Like and that's very rare. Like when does that ever fucking happen?
Yeah, after 83, democracy started, and in 85, in fact, there is this film called 1985. It's like the 85, the 1985.
Is this a documentary?
Yes, it's a movie. It's a movie.
Oh, okay.
And it's about the trials the first trials against the military government, and they actually sent them to trial. And we also have this, for example, my girlfriend, she's studying anthropology, and the forensic anthropology group here in Argentina is renewed in the whole world because they created a lot of different techniques to analyze the remains of those missing persons, because we actually get allowed to dig into these pits with a lot of bodies. And for example, that kind of thing happened in Brazil, in different places, but they don't get investigated, like we did here in Argentina. So that, and I don't know, different aspects from Argentina, like for example, free education. We have free education, we have free healthcare. So we have some basic human rights covered here. And at the same time, we are in a very shitty economic situation, So it's like, it's a constant struggle that you need to balance all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Seems like there's a very revolutionary spirit that's carried on there. Would you say that?
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
I see
In
that
a
in your
way,
work.
yes.
That's why I'm kind of bringing it towards your work, like there's a processionary almost kind of feeling. There's flags, like people like kind of a strong. It's not militant. I'm kind of trying to dance
Yes.
around militant, but it
Yes.
it is like evocative of that, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. It's not militant, but I don't want to do political art, but I want to portray the inner and the outer struggle that we all live, and especially in this present world, we all live in one way or another, because the struggles of other people, in the end, get to you in one way or another, no? So I felt that, and for me, working with these 3D models, these basic 3D models, the bald woman or the bald guy with all the muscles, all perfect, was working for me with Greek statues that are symbols of gods, and I don't want that. I want to work with the people I know, and my space and my floor. Here is my floor. You can see. Here is my floor when I'm sitting,
Beautiful
and
floor.
that floor, you can. Yeah, thank you. And that floor is present in a lot of my works. And that for me is, it's significant because,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
I
very
like
different
that.
narrative.
I like that. I mean, I'm understanding your work more, and the more I understand it, the more I like it too. I was already a fan, but like, to hear all this, it makes it more, fleshes it out. I like this idea of bringing your own world into it and all that. And I'm really interested about this idea of the gallery being not inclusionary enough. It seems to go hand in hand with your
Yes.
work. Do you still feel that way, or like I just kind of want to understand where you're at with that now, because I know opportunities are coming your way. The crypto art has,
Yes.
brought your career forward, and obviously I want to touch on what you're working on now before we wrap this up. But to get there, I know I was just with my friend David Allen, who I know that you know,
Yeah.
and I know that you're working on something for a museum that he's working with, which is very, very cool. So I just kind of want to hear about your I guess what's going on now, thanks to crypto art and your relationship to, that the fine art establishment, I guess, and where you're at now.
Yes. Yeah. Well, like I said before, I worked with galleries here locally, with street art galleries, and it was very good because that people was like artist as well. So it was very, very close. But again, for example, this economic crisis happened and they have to close. No, so the rest of the galleries here, for example, in Cordoba, they are more conceptual oriented, and the kind of art that we do here is a generalization in a way, but there is a lot of very minimal, very poor art in a way, like working with the minimal, and it is a good reflection of what Argentina is in a way, but it was very different from what I do. No, I am a maximalist, not a minimalist in a way, in terms of aesthetic. So I didn't felt comfortable with openings, with talking to collectors, and even with gallerists here because they didn't speak the same language as me. So in the middle of the pandemic, I was like jobless. Suddenly, I was jobless. My three works, I was working painting some trucks, like a mural work on trucks, and I was doing VR for a documentary, and I was teaching, and all the three works suddenly was out of the map thanks to pandemic. And I remember about tokenizing works that Andres Sen, that is a colleague from here, a very good generative artist, he spoke
Who is
about
that?
Andres Sen.
Okay.
Sann, double N.
Okay.
He's an incredible artist, and I am thankful for for him to show me the way, because if was not for him, maybe I didn't dare, I wouldn't dare have dared, sorry about my English, to mint my first works because I was thought, no, I'm not very technical. I'm not a technical guy. It's very difficult for me. But I kind of thought, no, I wasn't able to, mint this from Argentina. We have a lot of economic limitations about using credit cards in the outside, no? So he paved the way for me to this democratization of access, so speaking about the traditional, when I get access to understand what was crypto art about, I understood about blockchain before. So when I get to understand that they created a way to sell and show art in a very perfect way in the blockchain, I was, oh, this is it, because nowadays, pretty much a lot of people, not no, I will not say all, but a lot of people can get access to a cell phone, and with the cell phone alone, you can see in all the beauty a lot of art. One of the things I love the most about crypto art is the fact that I can zoom in and see for the first time, for example, uh, thanks to crypto art, I get to see Jeff Soto brush stroke. Jeff Soto, always, he always show like the pure, the whole composition, not details, and sometimes a little detail, but not too detaily. And now I can get into his brush stroke, and I can see how he plans and all the stuff, no, how he thinks in a way. So this access to all this art and all these artists is very far from the feeling that I got from the traditional galleries, where you in the museum you cannot get. I'm short-sighted, and I cannot get so close to a painting now because all the larves, all the guards are, hey, you don't do that. Again, it's not safe. It's not a safe space. So for me, that I always felt more linked with the artist online than with the artist in the traditional galleries. And it's very funny because nowadays the traditional galleries and artists locally, even locally, are speaking back to me and say, hey, why don't you show this or that? Or gallerists that years ago said to me, no, but this is digital. You are showing me a print, and this print, it values nothing, but this painting value a lot. It's valued a lot. No, so they are now speaking to me. Hey, what? Can we get some prints of you? And it's very funny. It's very funny. Um, but yes, I always felt above artistry. I always felt more close to the common human of the internet than to the pantheon of art gods. You know, and I think, and I sense, and I see that crypto art is getting all of us in the same table. For as example, I studied for years the art of Matthew Stone. You know, this
Oh, word,
artist
yeah,
from
of
UK.
course, yeah.
I discovered his work in the middle of trying to mixing VR with painting. And when I discovered them in 2016, no, in 2017, I discovered his work, and I was like, "Oh, this guy is doing what I want to do, but better." And he's doing from years ago, so I was devastated. But but after some time, I understood that my search wasn't not exactly his work. And after some time, he entered Twitter, and he
Yeah.
entered coming from an Instagram with hundred of followers, hundred of thousands of followers, into Twitter in a very humble way. And we started talking, and we did some Discord chats, and he was
Very
very
cool.
approachable, and it was beautiful for
Yeah.
me. It was unbelievable for me. It was unbelievable, and so it's the same for everyone. Yeah, if you get access to even a small cheap cell phone, you get access to all this art. In a way, it's a huge advance.
That's awesome. I didn't know about the connection with Matthew Stone, but that's really cool. I did see him enter the space. My first encounter with Matthew Stone was the FK Twigs cover, I think.
Oh yeah,
But I
yeah,
saw a show of his also at, I think, the Hole. He's done a couple shows at the Hole in Brooklyn or New York,
yes,
Manhattan.
yes,
Um,
yes,
so yeah, I'm familiar with his work. Yeah, but like you said, when he came into the community, it was kind of the leveling field, which the crypto art is seen as kind of like it's a leveling plane for to a degree for people who would want to do it right. It seems like at least.
yeah,
And I feel the exact
yeah,
same way, honestly. I really don't even
yes,
have anything to add to that because it's the same exact feeling and journey that I've had coming from trying to enter into the traditional world, but not feeling comfortable or accepted, or that I was not the right pedigree or I didn't act the right way or whatever it was.
yeah,
Um, in this thing you're saying about the galleries not being safe, I wrote down galleries are not safe because that's really funny. But I mean, I've talked about this before at length about I can't stand gallery attendance at some galleries, and like sometimes they ruin the entire experience. I've left places. I've left places because the gallery attendant was just being too fucking overbearing. Where I was just like, fuck it. Like if they say more, if
yeah.
one gallery attendant says more than like two things to me about something, I'm fucking out. I'm like, I'm a
No, no, no.
goddamn
Yeah,
adult. I make art myself. I know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm looking at this fucking art. You know, like it's so bad. I can't stand it. Like I'm gonna rant longer if I keep going, but I've gotten so fed up that I've just been like, fuck it, I'm gonna leave. Like,
yeah, yeah. If because if someone speaks to you about a work, in the moment you are watching it, they ruin it.
yeah,
Words ruin the art experience in a way, no? so
it's just so
so yeah,
asinine. You're just like, what are you even like? Because in that moment, it's like you're having an experience with something. In that moment, to me, is like is divine, is something
yeah,
spiritual almost. And then this random security guard that's just like listening to headphones on their phone is like, hey,
yeah,
just step back a little bit, or hey, you're too close.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
fucking
At the
Christ,
same
man.
at the same time, I really respect galleries and museums because sometimes they give you the right silence and space to
Sure.
experience.
Well,
No,
in that
so
context, like a cathedral or something where it is what it is, that experience of that space that you need to see it. You know what I mean? So it's just the attendance, really. And like
exactly.
it's just how, there needs to be better training or something, but like how to interact or
Yeah,
like, I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
But
Yes,
you
but
brought something else I find way more interesting is that how in it crypto art helps you in reverse it almost, whereas like you were getting to see the brush strokes of artists that you didn't get to see before, whereas like that's the opposite
yeah,
of what most people say. They're like, oh, I need to see it in person so that I can see the brush strokes and that I can feel the art. And you're saying like I actually got to have a more personal experience with the art because it was digital, because of the crypto art scene being what it
yes,
is, minting the work in high resolution, allowing me to zoom in, etc. So um I just think that's super interesting and so different. That's something you could tell somebody that didn't understand, like what most people just aren't hearing about this. You know what I mean?
yeah, yes, yes, yes. It's it's like it's paradoxical in a way, no? Because you are getting more close as the work gets digital in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's a complete subversion, you could say, to what the general narrative of this all is. So
Yes.
sorry that I'm walking right now. My computer's gonna fucking die. But
Okay,
what are
okay.
you working on right now is what I just wanted to get in closing here.
Yes, yes, yes. Sure. Well, um, I'm basically continuing what I was doing before. Uh, the same methods in a way, but incorporating new things. Like I started to work with Kate Bass Gallery, uh,
Oh,
and we
cool.
had
Really?
this. Yeah, yes, yes. She invited me. She um bought some works for me, and she invited me to be like part of their artist. And we had this video call with her, and she's a really lovely person. She, I was speaking yesterday with Franco Bellavita, that is a common collaborator of me because he does sound design for my work. He also did some spatial sounds for the VR installations we had.
Mm.
Because sometimes we didn't talk about that, but sometimes I create like VR installations, like we did in Canada with we the curator Samuel scanned a room in the gallery, and they sent back to me, and so I put a sculpture. And when
Oh,
you enter
that's
the
cool.
gallery, the room was empty, but when you put on the headset, you were like, oh, this is so cool, in the middle of this giant sculpture that enters through the walls, and you have no floor, so the sculpture goes around. And he created these soundscapes. But well, I open subjects, but getting back to it, I was speaking with Franco about how a lot of people in the space are like burnout, like this thing of the rhythm of making art all the time is people is so burnt out, and sometimes the human relation aspect is kind of difficult because the people are like, oh, they are like not paying much attention. And when I talked to Kate Bass, it was like the total opposite, because I felt like when talking to Art Nome, for example, Jason Bailey,
Mhm.
that people that actually love the this space, and they took the time to understood it from the basics, so they understand. They may be burnout from time to time, but they don't live that way. And for me, that is very important. That is very
Mhm.
important because I am an advocate of slow life, of taking things slow. I am a slow I am a slow creator. I work for months now. uh, as I was working with paints, I work now for months in a piece. Uh, so after this prior ball run that I had, that I entered like a month before the ball run started. So I get to see a little of the previous world of crypto art, a quieter community. And
Mhm.
when I entered, I didn't understood a thing about Ethereum and stuff, and all this thing was skyrocketing all the time. So it were very crazy for me. But after that time, this year I am trying to be more focused and more taking the time to create the real my real rhythm in a way. So I'm trying to focus on eating well, trying to sleep, trying to exercise, trying to well, it's all the things that makes you centered in a way. Because I feel that I create better that way.
I was just about
So,
to ask that. That's what I was, because me too. That's
yeah,
like I was wondering why you advocated for the slow life, or what, made you want to, you said change your diet, clean your health,
yeah,
clean up your health and exercise, because I've went through the same thing. But it's
yeah,
for the reason that that's where I create best from. Like, I mean, it has all the other benefits too, of course, but like
yeah,
really, like if it wasn't for like that's the way that I create the best, I don't know if I would be as disciplined with all of that or want it as much, that centered
yes,
life. But that is
yes,
where I
yes,
make the best work. Some people make the best work, last minute or from a frazzled state or whatever, but not me. I like comfort. I like a studio that I know I'm comfortable with, and familiarity with my environment to be able to create work from
yeah,
a centered place.
yes,
And yeah, so I totally relate,
yeah.
man. That's awesome. Did it take you a long time to find that about yourself, or?
Well, the thing for me is when I entered this crypto art space, I was like coming from a very burnout freelance state of being that was coming from years, because being a freelance in Argentina, especially, I didn't work, I didn't ever try or wanted to work with, for example, ad agencies or some of them asked me to work with publicity ads and stuff, and that for me will be easier. But I wanted to have time to pursue an art career at the same time. So I worked as a freelancer
Hmm.
with less paying jobs and not having the assurance of getting paid all the months. But at the same time, I had this time to create. And in the previous years to crypto, I was focusing more on teaching and spare gigs of freelancing, and even less money. I learned to live with so little money. And when I entered the crypto art space, I say, oh, this is a chance to survive. So I went full in. I was lucky to have a lot of works already made, that I was able to mint. And I created some works during these first 2 years. But it's not too much works. There are like 3, 4, 5 works, maybe more. But I wasn't in the need of like other artists I see that constantly creating and constantly minting to work. So this year I am taking it even further, and I say, okay, if I mint 2 works, 3 works a year, it's okay. If I mint more, perfect. But if they are 2 or 3, it's perfect, because I think the work needs to be what it needs to be. So, for example, we have this collaboration with Franco that we are about to mint next week in our manifold contract in Super Rare. That it's nearly done since months ago, but we left it in the waiting room, in the refrigerator in a way, to see it from time to time. Okay, it needs to be changed, that in the sound or in the
Hmm.
image, because we think that it's a whole, the sound and the image. Franco works with collaged approach of sounds, because he takes sounds mainly from the different travels or his life, like I do
Field
myself,
recordings.
no? Yes, field recordings. And he works pretty much with only that. So I felt like we have the same approach of having these bits of reality into a new world. Uh, so we take the time, all the time we need to. I really like the words of Etienne Krauss. He said, "I drop art like I am dropping albums." And when you drop albums as a musician, you're dropping it, and it's forever that way, in a way. So I need to be perfect for me, at least.
Hmm.
So right now we with Franco are focusing in some new works with photogrammetry and a lot of reflective surfaces and stuff that is very, very fun. It's a very fun process. I also did VR installation for the local art fair here that I scanned a lot of different artworks from the from different museum collections, and I created this like this exploded world where you have no floor and you are in the middle of in the middle of a void of a sky with clouds and stuff, and a lot of different uh, um, objects of art exploding in different
Wow.
places, and combined, like art from the past century or the 2 centuries ago is combined with a new piece and stuff, and you see it with the headset on. But coming back to politics and economic things here, the fair was cancelled for the first time in 10 years, 2 weeks before its opening.
Oh shit.
So yeah. So last week we were in protest in the streets, and we plan to do alternative art fair with the artists, like a um, very self-made, very punk art fair for
Love
some
it.
days in the middle of the streets. So you get the feeling of
Wow.
being an artist in Argentina.
That's really
It's
cool.
fun. You
When will that
cannot
be?
get bored. It will be in November. It will
Awesome.
be in yes. Yes, in the next week or it is not totally settled
Hmm.
what we're going to do. What we are going to do something, and it
We
make
are
all
gonna
the
do
artists from
something.
yes, it make all the artists from different, very different circles or spheres in the art world get together because all the galleries are infuriated, all the artists are infuriated, and so it's a beautiful thing in a way to
Why was
see
it canceled?
political corruption, basically. Yeah,
You
political
don't get a
corruption.
better explanation than that.
Yeah. Some people stole the money for the show for the art
What
fair.
the fuck?
They use it for other stuff. They use it for entertainment, and they spend a lot
Motherfuckers.
of money in other artists, music artists, but they don't get arts, so they don't care, and they did. But it was very, even for even for our corrupt politicians, it was a major fucked up movement for that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's well,
So
that's a
yeah,
really uh great way to tie this up actually, because it brings it all back around, like that
yeah,
revolutionary spirit. You're just yeah, really. I mean, you're just like going to be throwing your own art show now because they fucked it up. You can never trust the powers that be. Fuck them all.
exactly, exactly.
Um, and I know that this is still under wraps, but I know that you're working with Wonder Museum. So I just want to give
Yeah,
a shout out to David Allen. Wonder Museum will be opening a location in San Diego, and I believe you have an installation that will be there upon the San Diego opening. Is that right?
I don't know. I think he mentioned Boston. I think.
Oh, okay. Okay, my bad
I,
then. My bad.
yes,
Well,
yes, yes,
anyways, we
yes.
had David on Fake Whale here just a few weeks ago, or last week or the week sometime. But everybody can listen to that too. And I just think it's great
Oh,
what David is doing
oh
and
yes.
bringing. Yeah. David's episode aired a
Oh,
few weeks ago. So
oh,
me and David go way back.
cool.
He's been tattooing me for years and years and shit. So like it's funny, I was actually in a tour of Wonder Museum in Chicago 3 weeks ago now, and he was telling me about the new locations, and he brought up what he was working on. Like he told me about a mural, And then it was funny that it was you, but he didn't tell me that you told me. I was like, I hit him up after. I'm like, yo, bro, you didn't tell me it was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
people I know that was doing all this dope shit. So I just wanted to
yeah,
bring
yeah,
that
yeah,
up as well because I can't wait to see what it is you're working on for that. And I have some other friends working on for other locations too. But Wonder Museum, I think, is going to do cool things. Do you think so too?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. For me, it's the first time that actually a museum is. For me, the show I did in Canada, that was my first solo show, my first international solo show, and this is my first acquisition from a museum ever.
That's
Ah, no,
awesome. Yeah.
less ever, even not here locally. Uh, oh yeah, the government here bought a piece like 20 years ago, but this is the first time I get a piece to be present. I don't know for how much time
Yeah.
now. Yeah, but it will be a huge display of my work. I really love that. I really love the scale of the work because it
Hmm.
will be huge, and I really what I want to pursue in the next years is to show my works and have the viewer to be able to feel the installational aspect of my works, like feel the spectator use the body to enter the artwork itself. So this way, like printed in large scale, or future VR installations,
Hmm.
or mixed reality
Yep.
installations that will be a common thing in the future.
Hmm.
They are the things that I am, planning my things
Hmm.
for.
It's perfect
I
match.
create I create for the future in mind, I think, and the long term aspect of crypto art for me is it was
Hmm.
natural, always natural for me to think like that because we are part of an evolution,
Hmm.
an evolutionary process that is not better necessarily, but is different than we have now. So so yeah, it's very,
That
the
goes
future
hand in
is
hand
very
with your,
interesting.
yeah, it
Yeah.
goes hand in hand with your slow approach too, to think about the future along with it. It's very
Yes. Yes. Yes.
methodical
Yes.
and planned like, so.
Yes. And also, I saw a talk with you and Sky Golped when you were telling about koans and some meditational aspects of. Uh, you remember about koans? This kind of Sky Golpe was talking about aphorisms, and you were talking about koans that are
Oh,
these.
koans, yes. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Okay, yes,
yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah. And I was thinking to ask you if you practice meditation or something or try to. Well, yes,
I mean, I've explored meditation and I've gotten, well, I've it's such a weird question to try to answer. I've never gotten or done meditation in what people traditionally think of, where you sit down and just like, I've tried that. I sat there and been still and breathed and whatever and tried, and it doesn't work for me. But I've read a lot of books about meditation and talked to a lot of people, and I've developed kind of my own meditations that just like
yes,
what works for me. Because it seems to me that meditation can really just be anything that takes you out of your mind, your thinking,
yes,
aware mind, and puts you into more of the observer mind that doesn't have as
exactly.
many emotions. Not that it's not emotions, but it's not swayed by the
Yeah,
everyday
exactly,
emotions or whatever. It can be more of an observing of the like, oh, I'm feeling a certain way, like that's interest, blah blah blah, whatever. But ways of becoming the observer, I've definitely practiced that, if that's what you mean.
exactly. Yes, exactly. I was thinking about that because of the slow life approach, because uh, in 2021 I get to points of burnout that I never experienced before in my freelance work, and I was saying to myself, "Hey, you are now for the first time in your life you have savings. I didn't
Hmm.
have zero savings in all my life, and you have savings, and you are now working. Why are you so burnout? And that exercise, in the way that, whatever way, we need to step out of yourself and see, oh man, you are so fucked up. But you need to calm down. You need to see the
You are
bigger
so fucked
picture.
up.
Yeah, yeah, and see it in perspective. Yeah, see the people homeless in the street. You are like
Hmm.
having the best time of your life. Why are you in that way? No, so it's a very useful tool for me, in whatever way. I don't do same as you. I don't do like sittings. I did some courses of meditation, like some retreats, and
Hmm.
they were extremely beautiful and extremely difficult at the same time.
Hmm.
But what I do most meditation, for example, is washing dishes. For example,
Yeah,
like,
that's a great one.
yeah, and it's very cool, and it's a very necessary tool for these present times. For this overflow of information, of opportunities, of talking with different people. So it's beautiful that you get
Yeah,
to understand it.
I've read a lot of Zen literature and Taoist literature and stuff like that, and I think that the dishes example has been used by, people quite often about like, um when you're washing the dishes, like how if you just treat every dish like the most beautiful divine thing, and like you really put your entire body and meaning and everything you have into these dishes, that like how beautiful of meditation that can be. And so I often think about that when I'm washing the dishes too, of ways
Yes,
to like focus and just get your mind off of all that other shit. So I definitely relate, like 100%. It's difficult, but it's completely necessary.
yes,
The burnout thing is, I was in that same position earlier this year where it was like, why am I still burnt out? Why am I still in this rat race? I don't need to be doing this. And it's interesting when we find ourselves there, of like, what is actually happening here, and the ability to step outside of that is, I don't think everybody has that. And so it's very cool to hear that you have as well. You see it on Twitter. I see it all the time. I see people who are making tons of money, and they're just tweeting every 20 minutes about whatever hot topic is still going on. And it's like, it's clearly that that person is still just within that fucking cycle and circle. And it's like,
see,
you can make all the money in
yeah,
the world, but are you enjoying your life, or are you enjoying that freedom? Apparently not. Like, freedom that comes with money, like you have to choose that freedom still.
exactly. At the same time, I feel I know that I'm more obsessed than ever with this, huh? With my cell phone and social. I maybe I don't post, but I see
Sure.
all the days I am seeing. But I am kind of enjoying that in a way. And when I feel this, that I'm not having pleasure of it, I try to step up and
Hmm.
step out of that, and try to have some days of away from keyboard life. And and yes, it's I know that not many artists can have the possibility, because especially when you are entering space, you have to grind a lot. But it's a mindset in a way. For me, it's not that I feel more that like the dish is the most beautiful thing. So from time to time,
Yeah,
yes, but more about, oh, what the fuck I am thinking, and I am using my brain too. I am thinking this bad thought for hours, and it's not useful for anything. It's like, okay, I am aware of this fear,
yeah,
for example, and just being aware is like, okay, uh, tuning it down, no, the
exactly.
volume down.
And I didn't like the beautiful dish thing. Like, it's not that the dish is the most beautiful thing, but you can put all of your
Yes,
attention into it. Like, you can
totally,
put all
totally,
of
I
your
get it.
attention onto that dish rather than all the other shit that's going on in your mind, because in that
Yes,
moment, all that other shit doesn't matter, because you just need to make this dish clean. So make it the most
yes,
important thing, not the most beautiful thing, but maybe that dish in that moment. is the most
Yes, yes, yes,
important
yes.
thing in your life, and that's
I
the
totally get you.
meditation. Yeah,
I totally get you, and I get to meditation when I 10 years ago when I was like I I posted on Facebook I want a off switch for my inner speaker because
yeah.
it was driving me crazy, and I some people use therapy and some people do a lot of different I don't know extreme sports, but I
Hmm.
did meditation and did it worked for me. It worked. It was a lifesaver in a way for me for my mental health,
I love
and
that. I love that.
yes. Hmm. And I don't practice as like you because I
Yeah.
am a, but I
So
have it like a tool. Yes.
yeah, same. So in closing, I'm gonna leave you with just like this, because I think it goes hand in hand, and it came up actually this past week. But this idea of attention, and I always think of the quote, why do they say paying attention? Do you know what I mean? Paying, they say paying
Mm,
attention as it's money or
interesting.
something, a currency. And I've
Mm,
always thought of it as, or not, I thought of it, I heard of this once as attention is the currency you use to make something real. So whatever you're paying attention to
that's
is what
cool.
your reality is. And so I just want to leave you with that and ask, what's your thought on that, maybe real quick, because it goes exactly into what you're saying about doing the dishes, because in that moment, your attention, if you're what is real in that moment should be the dish, but you're living in a reality of hell because you're thinking about something bad or something like that. So like this
Hmm.
idea of attention and where you place it.
Oh, it's a question where I
Yeah,
place my
I'm sorry. I'm
attention.
sorry I didn't. Yeah, yeah. I'm just wondering if you've thought about that or before, or like how you maybe manifest that in your own life or work or
Yes, it's a cliche. It's a cliche phrase, a totally cliche phrase, but it's like trying to achieve the best version of what one can be, what I can be and what the art can be. Uh, uh, it's like what the world needs and what you are able, the able to do and what you get paid for. When you get this tree, it's this concept called ikigai. If I don't remember, that is Japanese. It's like finding that common ground between what the world needs and what you can do and what you can get paid for, like doing what you love, no? So, but I think above all, what I want to be is more open. I think that when you are more steady and more calm, you are open to whatever life is getting to give, give giving you. It may be ideas from other people, or it may be needs for other people, or needs from your local, your country, or the space, the crypto art space. So I feel that my attention, it's go it needs to go towards an evolution. I don't like the word evolution because it's Darwinian evolution, but like a process of trial and error, but towards a point that we don't know what is the point, but we feel when we are on the right track or we don't. And when we are burnout, we don't have the amount of sensibility to feel that, at least in my experience. So I want to be steady. Like I love that I grown painting because painting took takes a lot of time to work, and you are constantly in the verge of ruining it. No, so it's like a painter approach to the crypto art space in a way. What I'm trying to to live as, I don't know.
that's beautiful. No, that's perfect. So that's a beautiful way to end this, I think. Lucas, thank you for spending time with us. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing or anywhere you would like to point people? I know people can follow you on Twitter. Your handle will be in, this very post. But other than that, is there anything you'd like to advertise or give a shout out to?
Uh, no. My current website is my Instagram because I am in the process, the eternal process of making a website. But
The
you
internal
can
process, did you say?
the eternal, endless
Oh,
process.
eternal process.
Yeah, eternal process. I have this web developer that is saying to me, "Hey, when the fuck we going to end your website?" And I am constantly doing things in crypto art space. So my Instagram is a very curated, um,
Okay.
like resume of my work, so people can see
Is your
there.
handle on Instagram the same as it is on Twitter?
But not exactly. But if you see the link tree in my Twitter,
Okay.
you can go to different
There you go.
my Instagram and also to some articles to different
Perfect.
places. So
So for anybody who
that's
wants
pretty
to
much
dig
it.
into the work, yeah, if anybody wants to dig into the work of Lucas, you can go to the link tree via Twitter. So, and
Now
then as
sorry. Now I remember that my name.com points toward the Instagram also.
oh, great. And then also Instagram. So that's like the main place. And then as we alluded to in this discussion, Lucas has an installation opening in Boston whenever that comes around. And I know that's very under wraps, but we have a very tight knit community here listening to Lee. So that's just a little alpha, I guess, we're throwing out there. So stay tuned for that. But other than that, thank you very much again, Lucas. Thank you everybody for joining us. It's been a really good
Yeah,
time getting to know you and your work better.
it's been a pleasure, Jesse. Really, really, and
Absolutely.
really thankful for the invitation to be in the vault. I really respect what you are doing, and I'm happy to be part of it.
We're
Really.
so stoked to have you in the vault and to be part of the FakeWhale, family, basically what's growing here with us. So thank you again, and everybody check out the vault, the piece that Lucas is minting. It's beautiful. So that will be up there by the time this comes out, I believe, or shortly after. So all right, thanks a lot, Lucas, and have a
Thank you,
good
Jesse.
week, everybody. A good weekend, and happy Halloween. I suppose this will be the last episode that comes up. So, to all those
Happy
that
Halloween.
celebrate Halloween, happy Halloween. Thanks again, Lucas.
Okay.
Peace.
Thank you. Bye bye.